Hello there. Welcome to the subject ECC9. This is the Program and Policies with Enterprise Development. I am your instructor, Mr. Virgilio Bersana. Our topic today is about microeconomics fundamentals. This is understanding the key indicators of economic health of a nation. But what is microeconomics? It is defined that microeconomics is the study of individuals, households, and firms' behavior in decision-making and allocation of resources. It generally applies to market of goods and services and deals with individuals and economic issues. Another definition would state that microeconomics is a branch of economics that studies the behavior of individuals and firms in making decisions regarding the allocation of scarce resources and the interactions among these individual firms. Why are microeconomics indicators important? Microeconomic indicators are crucial because they offer insights into the overall health and performance of an economy. They help policymakers, investors, and businesses understand economic trends, make informed decisions, and formulate effective changes or strategies. These indicators, like the GDP, inflation rates, and unemployment figures, act as vital signs revealing the economy's current state and potential future direction. So let's take an overview of the key indicators. We have the GDP, the GNP, inflation, and unemployment. Again, these are the different key indicators. Let's talk about the gross domestic product. It is defined as the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a given period. It's also defined as the gross domestic product, or the GDP, is the standard measure of the value added created through the production of goods and services in a country during a certain period. Another definition would mean this measures economic activity within the national borders. That's GDP, or gross domestic product. What are the different types of GDP? First, we have the nominal GDP, or this is not adjusted for inflation. This is the raw, unadjusted measure of a country's economic output. We're talking about the nominal GDP, calculated using current market prices. The nominal GDP reflects the total monetary value of all goods and services produced within a country's border during a specific period, without accounting for inflation. This is the raw, unadjusted measure of a country's economic output, calculated using current market prices. It reflects, I think this is just the okay. It reflects the total monetary value of all goods and services produced within a country's border during a specific period without accounting for inflation. So this is just a duplicate of the definition. Next, we have another type of GDP, or the real GDP. This is what you call the adjusted, or this is adjusted for inflation. Then another type is the GDP per capita. So the GDP is divided by the population. When you talk about real GDP, so like I said, this is adjusted for inflation. This is an inflation-adjusted measure. It reflects the total value of goods and services produced in an economy, using the prices of a base year or previous year, thus removing the impact of price changes. This allows for more accurate comparison of economic outputs across different time periods. The next type is the GDP per capita. So this is divided by population. This measure divides the total GDP of a country by its population. It provides an indication of the average economic output per person, offering insights into the standard of living and economic prosperity within the nation. So what is the importance of GDP? First, it is the indicator of economic growth. Next, it guides government policy in investment decision. And it shows international comparison. So those are the GDP. Next, we go to GNP, or the Gross National Product. It is defined as the total market value of all final goods and services produced by the nationals of a country regardless of location. The GNP, or Gross National Product, can be categorized into nominal GNP and real GNP. Nominal GNP reflects the total value of goods and services at current prices, while real GNP adjusted for inflation by using constant base year prices, providing more accurate pictures of economic growth. Additionally, GNP can be broken down by expenditure components like consumer spending, investment, government spending, and net export. So that is GNP, or the Gross National Product. Next, we have inflation. It is defined as the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. It reduces the purchasing power over time and is the rate of increase in prices over a given period of time. Inflation is typically a broad measure such as the overall increase in prices or the increase in the cost of living in a country. So what are the causes of inflation? So we have the demand pull. This means that there is too much demand but not enough supply. Because of this, there's an increased consumer spending, there's an increased government spending, there is an increased export demand, and there is, of course, population growth. So that's demand pull. Another cause is the cost push. This pertains to the rising production cost. So, rising input costs, supply chain distributions, it increases taxes on regulation, and of course, we have wage increases. The next cause of inflation is the monetary policy and inflation expectation. So, this is because of the increase of money supply, the lower interest rates, and inflation expectations. So how do we measure inflation? So first we have the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. The Philippine Consumer Price Index reflects changes in the price of a basket of goods and services commonly purchased by household. The CPI is used to track inflation and is the key indicator of the cost of living. So we have the CPI. That's we use to measure inflation. Another way to measure inflation is the PPI, or the Producer Price Index. In the Philippines, PPI most commonly refers to the Producer Price Index, which is a measure of the average change over time in the selling prices received by domestic producers for their output. Okay, so those are the different means of measuring inflation. Next, we have unemployment. So this is defined as the percentage of labor force that is jobless, and actively seeking work. Unemployment is an individual who is not employed and is seeking employment but cannot find work. Unemployment is a key indicator of the health of an economy. A low unemployment rate represents a strong economy, while a high unemployment rate represents a weak economy. So what are the different types of unemployment? Okay, we have the frictional, meaning the individual are or is between jobs. Structural, meaning the employee has a skill mismatch. Cyclical, okay, these are the removal, okay, or laying off of people due to economic downturns. And seasonal, meaning employment is linked to a time of year. So how do we measure unemployment? The unemployment formula rate is that unemployment rate is equal to the number of unemployed, of course. And this is divided by the total labor force. And multiply that by 100% or 100. Labor force participation rate, okay, so the LFPR is equals to the labor force divided by the working age population times 100. Now, interconnections of indicators. How GDP, inflation, and unemployment affects each other. Now, let's talk about GDP and unemployment. A growing GDP typically means businesses are producing more, requiring more labor, and thus leading to lower unemployment rates. This is often described by the Okun's law, which suggests a link between the GDP growth and unemployment reduction. Conversely, a shrinking GDP can lead to businesses laying off workers, resulting in higher unemployment. How GDP, inflation, and unemployment affects each other. GDP and inflation. A strong GDP growth can put upward pressure on prices, causing inflation, as demand for goods and services increases faster than supply. If businesses can keep up with demand, they may raise prices, leading to inflation. However, moderate inflation is often seen as a sign of a healthy, growing economy. How about inflation and unemployment? What is their connection? Historically, there's often an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment, known as the Phillips curve. When unemployment is high, businesses may not need to raise wages to attract workers, leading to lower wage inflation and potentially lower overall inflation. Conversely, low unemployment can lead to increased competition for workers, driving up wages and potentially contributing to higher inflation. So the Phillips curve, okay, this is an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. The Phillips curve illustrates that an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment, when one is high, the other tends to be low. That means that as unemployment decreases, inflation tends to decrease, and vice versa. The relationship is often depicted as a downward sloping curve on a graph, with unemployment on the horizontal axis and inflation on the x-axis. So that is our topic for this video. So this is for the subject ECC 9, Program Policies and Enterprise Development, Lesson 1 by Virgilio Barcena.